Hi, welcome back. I'm Dan. For our discussion tonight, I'm Daniel,
I'm Scott,
and I'm
working on technical stuff.
yeah. 1 second. There we go.
All right.
Now I can see your chats. Good video from Critical Role today.
Yeah.
I had some thoughts as the video was going through, and one of the things that made me laugh was Liam saying, the audience won't be ready.
Yeah.
And I was like, but won't we? You're filming this behind the scenes thing.
Yeah.
Won't we be ready?
I think there's going to be immersive effects.
Yes. So they cut to Matt, and Matt's like, you know, when I in art class in high school, I had this idea for a multimedia experience, where they had to design a multimedia experience.
It was a project that turned into his white whale, he said.
Yeah. And he's talking about LCD screens in place of windows. And my brain immediately went to The Mandalorian. And what Disney did for the volume. Because that's essentially what the volume is.
Okay.
It's a 360-degree LCD screen that they virtually build sets in and project.
Okay.
So they can get accurate lighting for the environment. So all the Tatooine shots, it's all in the volume.
Okay.
And the sun's coming in, that provides real light for his shiny, polished armor. And that's how they were able to get all the correct lighting effects.
Okay.
Because that was one of the things when it first came out, that even people who worked in the industry were like, how are they doing this?
You're right.
They thought it was CG maybe, and well, Disney has the money to spend on that kind of stuff, but
yeah.
But I was like, when he said LCD screens, I was like, did they build the volume?
I don't think it's quite that, but...
No. But by the time Campaign 4 rolls around, the cost of that technology might come down enough that they might be able to afford it.
Yeah, if they keep growing at the rate they're growing.
Yeah. So, yeah, that made me giggle a little bit. But the biggest troll, I think, I'm calling it a troll. It's probably not a troll, but I'm calling it a troll. Because they could have gone with any set designer at all. They could have, but the set designer that they went with, the two set designers they went with, both professional theme park designers, concept artists.
Yep.
And the reason I'm calling it a troll is because since they were on Geek and Sundry, or since they started the channel, maybe. It might not be since they were Geek and Sundry. But Matt's been joking about
Critical
Role Land, yes. Exactly, Rose. Exactly.
Yep.
And I'm like, Matt is a DM. And he often is in the heads of people who have years-long, complex world domination plans. So I'm like,
Yeah.
Because, like, and I was thinking about this. Like, just going to a Critical Role Land theme park wouldn't be as much fun as being able to go to a place that is set up to run games.
Yeah. Well, I think a Critical Role Land theme park would pretty much just be a permanent Renaissance festival. Just with, certain names. Like, you'd have the Slayer's Cake. You'd be able to get Strong Jaw Ale.
Yeah.
But it would essentially be a permanent Ren Fair.
Yeah, I buy that. But yeah, that made me laugh the hardest, is that they had the professional theme park designers design the set.
Yeah.
And I found it interesting that Talison's one shot gave them the courage, I think is the right word.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the idea, because Taliesin obviously had the idea to do the projection effects even on the set that they had.
Yeah. Or the inspiration. Like, oh, that's how let's do this. Yeah.
Yeah. And I got to thinking about it. If you are a landscape artist and a critter, with their new design, fan art submission process, you're in on the ground floor to potentially get your art as backdrop if they have any sort of screen. I don't know what projection effects exactly they're going for. I don't know how fidelity they're after. Maybe it's just lights. Maybe it's light and shadow to give it some sort of an impression. Like on the range of black box theater to 3D VR, where are they trying to fall on that scale?
Yeah.
Is sort of what I'm trying to figure out. And the video that they did doesn't provide much in the way of answers for that.
No.
Because I didn't see, like, they gave us the plans for essentially 3 levels of projection that they can do. So I don't know if that's 3 projections onto a single screen, but it seems like there's other set pieces that might be in the way. I don't know.
I think we're going to have 3 separate screens. I think there should be one behind the one side, one behind the other, and one behind Matt.
So one of the things I was trying to pay attention to and look for was cameras. How many and where?
Yeah.
And maybe they filmed that before they got all of that in there. Because the only thing that was evident for stream were the microphone placements.
Yeah.
Which is pretty much exactly where they have been. The boom mic just above the player. Although it seems like this design for the table and the space, the microphones are much further back.
Yeah.
Whereas in the space that they have now for campaign 2, there were a couple times where they hit them.
Yeah.
Standing up or with props during things. Where this one seems more set back in an entire triangle.
Just probably to address that.
Yeah. But the interesting thing that I noticed, and it may or may not stay this way, there's a camera essentially right behind Matt,
Mm-hmm.
looking down table. I don't know if that means if they are going to have a virtual tabletop now, where they will be projecting the battlefield onto,
Yeah.
so that all the players can see, and this camera will be pointed at it. Because that's something that they could do,
Yeah.
and that fits into the experience that we've never had before as an audience.
Yeah.
And also is probably easier than trying to fiddle with splicing in another video feed, or like not another video feed, but like the virtual tabletop feed. I don't know how that will work. The other possibility, yeah, Rose, the digital assets does add flexibility, but does cost them a potential advertiser.
Yeah.
But if they have a separate set for the Dwarven Forge,
Yeah.
and they get, because they make cameras that can get real low and in on stuff,
Mm-hmm.
And that set, that feed, is broadcast to that monitor that this camera and the players are all seeing, and that's how they move. That'll be interesting.
Yeah.
There are some technical problems doing that because the players can't say, "You move me here," or they can't use a laser pointer to point on the map on the table where to move them.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of potential. Or maybe this view, this camera, they'll still have the Dwarven Forge in the middle of the table, and this camera is just a better place for it.
Yeah, that's what I think it's going to be.
And yeah. So the table, trying to think back, I think it is slightly smaller than Campaigns 2 table.
I honestly don't remember the measurements. So
because, well, Campaigns 2 table was more, the side cutouts were more pronounced, so it looked more like a Superman symbol. This one is more triangular. And I think they did that in part because Matt needs that extra space now on the back end.
Yeah.
Because, like, he's got his DM screen and what he would normally need for the DM screen. And the shot they showed from behind, he's got a light board to control lights. He's got a programmable scene change thing. I don't know, that may be light and sound because those things can be designed for both. And then he's got what I think is his music stuff. I think that's on this side. And I was looking at that and I was like, it's like an organ.
Yeah. Yeah, easily. I had that thought too. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, how long before he needs space back there to roll dice because it didn't look like he had a lot of it.
Yeah.
And they just moved some of that to foot pedals. So now he can be.
Turn him into Marisha's character from the Daring Timberman one shot.
Actually, well, because I'm running Curse of Strahd, what popped into my head was Strahd.
Mm. Yeah.
But yeah, exactly. And it made me. I was like, that seems overly complicated. I don't know. I've never found a tool set that I like to do anything like that with. And I don't know if it would necessarily work in a home game.
Right.
Just because at a home game, there's a lot of side talk. I mean, we've talked about this before. When you're streaming, it focuses you. So the side chatter is limited in that way. I've occasionally used music just to have on in the background.
Yeah.
And glory in how my shuffle will pick the right song at the right time. It's total confirmation bias because more often it doesn't pick the right song at the right time, but we notice it when it does. So, but yeah, I don't know. I'm wondering how long it is before Matt has, I don't know, a lighting tech or a sound tech, stagehand, whatever title they want to give that person, but somebody behind there, basically sitting on the floor and being Matt's other hands.
The great and powerful Oz. Don't pay attention to the man under the table.
Yeah. But yeah, the other thing that I sort of laughed at was those are like 10-inch beams.
Yeah.
That they're using that they use to build the set, and it looks like a mahogany or some other kind of hardwood.
Yeah.
Table, and I was just like, the price of lumber over the last year. Like, how much must that have cost?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, man, if any of you, I might be the only person to know what the price of lumber's been doing.
Yeah, probably.
But it's only because I do the books of, I think, 5 builders.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
I just know that, that thing, I know what gaming tables cost. That thing cost a pretty penny.
But as for seating arrangements, that was the other thing that I almost started to rewind and rewatch the video and take notes on, was where they were sitting when they were sitting down during the video piece.
Right.
And I was like, is that a preview of where everybody's sitting? And then they added it. They did the bit where they did the interviews after.
Wait, we're doing dibs? Wait, are we going to?
They're like, we don't know where we're going to sit. It'll probably be decided the last 10 minutes. I don't know.
I don't know if that's going to be exact where they were. I think it's going to be pretty close. I think Travis is definitely going to be in the same spot.
Okay.
End piece closest to Matt on the side with 3 players. I say that because he likes the end, and he's the biggest guy, so they tend to put him on the side with 3. And if he's at the other end, away from Matt, then it's where it gets narrower and people overlap. So I think he's pretty much going to be in the same spot that he was in that video.
Okay.
Due to size and end preference.
Yeah, there were some YouTube comments on the video that echoed my laughing at the Travis is like, I gotta have the end. And Laura's like, I want to be in the middle.
Yeah.
And Laura has been in the middle every time.
Every time. And she will be.
My guess is we will have them sitting near. Okay, we will either see them sitting next to each other or right across from each other if their characters know each other.
Okay.
And it all depends on whether or not the cast feels that those interactions are more intimate next to each other.
Yeah.
Or across from each other.
I think it'll be next to each other. For the reason that you can just picture them both in the same shot. It'd be easier.
Yeah, but there's also a possibility that they have been practicing and where we have had to wait for fan edits for close-up shots and stuff.
Yeah.
I think we might be getting more of them.
Okay.
And because they had to buy the cameras to have everyone have their own camera for the COVID stuff.
Right.
They have the cameras now.
Yeah.
That everyone can have their own camera. Where before, it was just camera this side table, camera this side table, camera Matt.
Camera Matt.
Yeah.
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 I was thinking it'd be nice to see Sam and Liam sitting together too, but and they are professionals, but is that going to lead to side chat, or is that why they've never sat next to each other? Honestly, okay. We'll call this a prediction, but it's just kind of what I think would be interesting. I'd like to see Travis, Sam, and Marisha on one side.
Okay. So that Sam can get hit instead of Liam?
Well, that too. I mean, there'll definitely be more times where he deserves it. Well, one, I really want Sam and Travis to know each other because I love the interaction that they have between each other. Both as Scanlon and Grog and as, Knott and Ford. So I'd like to see more duo stuff with the two of them.
Okay.
And I don't want Laura over there because then we'll just get too much of Sam fucking with her dice.
I have a feeling where Laura will be sitting next to Travis.
Okay.
Unless she has a specific reason not to. And the only reason I say this is because I think she got used to and probably started to enjoy having Travis right there.
And see, my thought was they won't sit together because they did for campaign 2. Pre-COVID.
Which might be another point in we'll know who knows who.
Yeah.
Based on if they're sitting next to each other or not.
Right.
Although Liam and Sam didn't sit next to each other.
Right. And Marisha joined them, and she didn't sit next to them.
Yeah.
So, but
I also laughed because in the behind the set video, Ashley and Marisha were sitting next to each other.
yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, man, the Boyasha
And
fans.
I'd kind of like to see that. I'd kind of like to see it go Marisha, Ashley, Taliesin, Liam. Because Liam and Taliesin are another pair that I'd like to see. Because I don't think we've ever really seen like a good chunk of interaction between them. There's been moments, but it's never been those two characters are the connection. The most we got was Vax and Percy, and that was because of Vex. That wasn't their own connection.
That's true.
So there's never been like a bond there between those two.
And Caduceus and Caleb never really had.
Right. And neither did Molly and Caleb.
Yeah.
So that's a pairing I would like to see play off each other.
Yeah. And depending, and I'm really missing the fact that they didn't do the silhouettes
Yes.
this time.
Thank you. That's what I've been saying. Where's my silhouette? Yeah, I think they'll all know at least one. I think there'll be 2 groups of 2 and 1 group of 3, like in campaign 2. Unless they do what Liam wanted to do, and they've all been traveling together and all know each other.
Honestly, I think that fits the table dynamic better.
Yeah.
And is something they haven't done before.
Yeah.
Like, they don't have to know all of the secrets in each other's backstories to do that.
Correct.
Because you can be traveling with somebody or working with somebody for a long time and not know something about them. Like, how many people work with Chadwick Boseman and didn't know that he was fighting cancer?
Right.
Um,
Oh yeah, no, that's very true. But yes, exactly. Like 2 to 5 years.
I have a feeling the campaign is going to take us into the mountains.
Okay.
I read Matt's sort of introduction to Marquette.
Mm.
And he mentions 2 mountain ranges and the desert.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that we've already been well, that's for the campaign setting, for the campaign that they just released. That's what that was when he said that they start far from Marquette. That was the introduction.
Yeah.
I think we will start either in Ank'Harel or starts with an S. I can't remember the name. The Port.
Oh. Yeah.
I think we'll start in one of those 2 cities. And if it's going to be more of a political thriller play, I think we have to start in Ank'Harel.
Yeah, I think Ank'Harel is where they're going to start. That was my guess.
Yeah, just because the players are familiar with it.
Mm-hmm.
Much of the fans are familiar with it. It's a nice place to start things off.
Yeah.
Before
Yeah,
things.
just a hint of the familiar before delving into the unknown.
Yeah.
And I gotta wait like 3 years for my Marquette source book, because 2 to 3 years is the average time, and they're gonna push it to the 3 for the new rules update.
Yeah.
And I just want my Critical Role books.
Yeah. Do you think they're starting at level 1, or do you think they'll start at 3 like they did last time?
Well, last time they started at 2.
That's right.
They started at 2 streaming. They did level 1 to level 2 pre-stream.
Or do we start at level 5?
I think if they've known each other for the 2 to 5 years or something, we start between 3 and 5.
Okay.
If they don't, we start at level 1 or 2. Because those early years, those early levels, when you're squishy and things can happen like that, that's the bonding time. That's when you really have to depend on each other.
Yeah. That's fair.
That's when typically you're kind of learning each other, you're learning yourselves, you figure out your battle strategy that you kind of just variate slightly throughout the course of your campaign. When you have to rely on each other and not try and go off and do your own thing.
Yeah.
I just find it lends towards developing those tactics and trust if you start earlier rather than later.
That's true.
So that's why I think that.
It's fair. Yeah. There are some advantages, and getting to high level rows is not the main reason to start at level 5.
Yeah, I mean, we went to level 20 in campaign 1, and well, a good chunk was pre-stream. That started level 1. That went 1 to 20.
And started at streaming at 8, I think.
8, yes. And campaign 2 basically went 2 to 16.
Yeah.
So. Do you think they'll go back to experience points now that they don't have to worry about people not being there between the pre-streaming and Ashley not being gone for filming? And people might level differently like in campaign 1, or do they keep milestone and everybody level together?
I think Matt might do XP, but everyone gets the same amount. Maybe. Just because it's nice having everyone level up at once.
True.
No one feels left behind. All the new abilities happen at the same time. They can all do it at the end of a episode.
Yeah, like they did.
But
and really, the only argument I have for letting it vary is that it allows that one person who just leveled up to be able to shine in the next adventure with their new abilities, rather than having,
everybody's chock full of new abilities.
Yeah. This can be their episode where they get to shine with the new toy. And then when you level up, it'll be your turn to shine.
I could see that.
I guess it's going to depend on what they felt was better for them, because they did both. They did the experience where people were leveling at different rates, and they did the milestone.
Yeah. But, like, it's one of the things that I'm sort of worried about, in Sunday's game
Hmm.
because we're doing milestones.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys are leveling up often enough, if that makes sense.
Yeah. In all honesty, it just doesn't. It's not. I feel we're not leveling up fast enough or too fast. It's that sometimes it takes way more than we do. Way more. Like we do
Yeah.
2 or 3 levels worth of stuff before we get a level, but then sometimes we only do a third of that.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, we are leveling already. So
Yeah.
sometimes it seems quick. Some levels it seems like it takes way too long.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know because I didn't really map out sort of story points. Like I think the way Matt does milestones is every character it probably has 1 or 2.
Right.
The story will have probably 10.
Yeah.
And Sunday's game, the milestone is you finished the exploration.
Yeah.
Like in my brain, that's what it was.
Okay.
And
then we have weeks like last Sunday where we spent half of it just doing aftermath stuff.
Yeah. And I thought about giving you guys a level, but the 2 new characters
Don't know what we've done. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's milestone. I think can be tricky in and of itself.
Yeah.
And going the XP route where everyone gets the same leveling can feel more earned, if that makes sense. I think where if they go off on a tangent, they can still get that XP.
Yeah.
Rather than if you're doing milestones, they go off on a tangent and it takes them forever to get back and do the story thing.
And that's where you kind of got to say, okay, is this worthy of its own milestone? It may not be one that I had set in, but is it worthy of its own?
Yeah.
And
for most side stuff, for most tangents, I would say no.
Or do these 2 or 3 tangents together equal 1?
Yeah.
Milestone worth of experience and growth, and
Yeah. So I can see
the problem. The only problem I have with experience is it's weighted so heavily for combat, and it's so skewed for non-combat.
Okay, so Matt does things, or at least the way he's described it in the past, does things a little more complicated than what I have adopted, which is for RP scenes, for negotiations, for exploring those kinds of things.
Right.
I look at the encounter table.
Mm-hmm.
Encounter difficulty, easy, medium, hard, deadly.
Mm-hmm.
And I assign that value based on the importance of the consequences of that scene. So it let's take the trial or the confrontation with the Bright Queen when they first got there. That's a deadly encounter.
Right.
So everyone gets the deadly encounter XP for that.
Yeah.
Going underground, getting to Jorhas, medium. Plus all the random encounters they get into, monster XP value. The negotiation with the kobolds, probably a medium encounter.
Okay.
That's how I do it now.
Snoopy, they don't have a copy of the new rules yet. That's not something they're working on until they started working on it this year. So their Wizards is nowhere near ready to give anyone an advanced copy of the new rules.
Matt could probably get advanced copies of books, and by advanced copies, that's
Oh, I guarantee he gets advanced
A
copies
month
of books,
before
but
everybody else.
yeah, it won't be until at the earliest early 2023 when he gets, if he gets like a PDF of the new rules and stuff.
Yeah. I think it was Mordenkainen's that he did some contract consultant work on.
Mm-hmm. And we saw some of that appear before the book came at the beginning of campaign 2.
Yeah.
And we mentioned that in the show.
Yeah. So that kind of thing where he contributes, he's obviously got it early.
Right. Especially the parts he worked on.
Yeah. But no, I don't think they get it any more advanced than any other media person, and most of those are at most a month out.
Yeah.
And you've got to be like a media playtester to get it that far in advance, because even most of the YouTube channels that get stuff early, it's a week.
Yeah.
Yeah. And from what I understand of Wizards' publication schedule, the book can be not 100% up to a month away from release.
Yeah.
Where there might be layout changes, there might be last minute text changes.
Yep.
I don't want to say rules changes because that's
accurate. Probably not. Yeah.
But
maybe
text
some
within
clarification
the rules.
of the way
text,
the rule works.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't think anyone gets it much beyond a month before anybody else.
Yeah. And I say he may get it sometime in 2023 because, I mean, they said there's going to be unprecedented play testing, which is going to be through Unearthed Arcanas. When they went to 5th edition, they did the D&D Next where you could sign up and you got the stuff, and there was a year of play testing stuff and submitting your feedback in exchange for getting these PDFs of what might be. I think we're going to see something like that. And I'm sure he'll get them.
He might get them, but I can almost guarantee it will not appear on Critical Role.
Right. Yeah, because there'll be some kind of NDA.
Well, no, not even that. Matt's players don't care.
Yeah.
In fact, one could argue they resist rules.
Fair point.
They've never been particularly persnickety about the rules.
Yeah.
From the players or Matt. They have gotten better over the years. But I don't expect that to change. And a rules update for 5th edition.
Yeah.
I don't see any of the cast members being excited about that.
Yeah.
Except maybe Taliesin. And only because Taliesin has played so many different systems.
Mm-hmm.
And like Taliesin, other than Matt, is the most in touch with gaming at the tabletop gaming.
Yeah. And I would say he's even more if you count the breadth of games.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
now Travis with Ford, I think definitely showed that he put his toe in to the build research.
Yeah.
Because the Paladin Warlock is a popular power build.
Yeah.
Almost as like the Source of Din or anything like that. Like there are very popular builds that some people do, and you can do research to do them. And like the only reason I say the only like the biggest defense he has against that is he didn't go Vengeance Paladin.
Yeah. Well, okay, so
Because the Vengeance Paladin Hexblade is
if he was just going whatever the build is, yes. But he specifically said on talks that he was looking at the Vengeance Paladin but didn't feel it fit Ford quite right.
Yeah.
So he did the research and he looked at that build and he's like, it doesn't quite fit story wise.
Yeah. And sort of once you start down the build path, forever doesn't dominate your destiny.
Yeah.
Could be argued.
And well, at our Sunday game, you've got examples of both ends of that.
Yeah.
We've got people who, this is the build, this is how you do it, these are the spells you take, these are the feats you take, this is what's good, this is what isn't. And then you've got me who does the research, but it's like, so I know not to do that, I'm going to try something completely different.
Yeah. So, yeah. I don't expect the new rules are high on anybody's list of things to do.
And I honestly don't think that they're going to be so drastically different than what 5e is right now that it matters.
Yeah. I think the biggest rules change
is the way they do backgrounds and races.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's already done.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest rules change. I think we're going to see a lot more. I don't know if it's going to be as diverse as your system or as what you were thinking, but I think we're going to see a lot of, like the races, you know, now you pick common and a language you and your DM decide on. You get +2 to anything and +1 to anything, or 3 +1s to, you know.
Yeah.
It's going to be like, here are some different tropes, but you choose 2 skills, you choose 2 languages and or tool proficiencies, you choose one of these features, and you create your own.
Yeah.
It's going to be lean more into the create your own. It's not even an optional rule, it's just a variant. You know, it's like, this exists, you can do this, it's regular rules. If you don't like these exact ones, you can make up your own by mishmashing or doing whatever. And especially with Van Richten's introducing the features that aren't tied to a background that you can just swap out.
Yeah. So, yeah, they will probably be involved in a launch stream, like the 50th anniversary celebration, D&D celebration.
Yes.
Critical Role will be there, and part of that will be the launch of the new book.
Whether or not it'll be all of them or not, but it'll definitely have a good chunk of them.
Yeah.
Either as players and or DMs.
Yeah. So. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Rose, it's just it's going to be a 3rd to 3/5 change, not a 3/5 to 4 or a 2 to 3 or anything like that. Yeah. Where they completely throw out Seiko.
Yeah.
And reverse the way AC works. Instead of the lower number, the better, it's the higher number.
Yeah. The biggest change might be weapon and armor stuff.
Yeah.
A deepening of the equipment stuff, because 3.5 did that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things that people knock 5th edition for.
Yeah.
Is there's not a lot of weapon properties. There's not a lot of interaction between weapon and armor.
Yeah. Well, there's not a good way to do things like a meteor hammer because they kind of don't let you do closer reach, you know, interchange between the two.
Yeah. Or the Kasurigama.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of
or
stuff.
any of those hybrid weapons.
Yeah. Especially ethnic's not the right word, but specialty geographical weapons. 5e doesn't have a system in place to either design them as a DM or it's in place for anything.
Yeah.
And I even tried working on a system. But the thing is, anything like that adds complexity, and that can turn some people off.
Yeah.
Like some of the noodliness of Pathfinder, of some of the stuff that they have, I think is too much. I mean, well done designing it and getting into that nitty gritty of it, but I don't know, there's just a lot of moving parts
Yeah.
in the Pathfinder system that it would be better for a computer to memorize, to keep track of all that.
Yeah.
And yeah, the damage types, Snoopy, the damage types don't really matter now. Like, most monsters that are resistant to all of them.
Yeah.
Or none of them. And the number of monsters that are vulnerable to a particular type of weapon damage, I think there's 5.
Yeah.
And the one that everybody knows is skeletons are vulnerable to bludgeoning damage.
Mm-hmm.
But the skeleton warhorse isn't.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I think the one big thing I've seen online that I don't think is going to happen is they want wizards there's a lot of cry out for more feats and for feats to be separated from ASI so that you can get both. But the thing is, feats are an optional rule.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're going to fold them into the main rules.
Well, and that gets back to what I said to you about we may see a divorcing of class and subclass, and it becomes a talent tree.
Yeah, and
because that's closer to what 3.5 did. It's close to what Pathfinder did.
The only reason so it's not that I don't think we're going to see that, but I think we're going to keep subclasses.
Yeah.
Think
subclasses I think would just be a talent tree.
So
that's dependent. Like to get this one, you have to have this one.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say I think because, like I said when you first brought that up, that negates the, the uniqueness of those subclasses. I think we'll still have subclasses. I mean, you can either pick a subclass, and that's the only way to get that particular feat tree, or you can be a generic barbarian and pick from this feat tree. Or class feature tree.
Yeah. Again, I mean, that's a big rules change. And I don't know if they're going quite that big. But if they're responding to, I want to make a choice every level, critique of 5th edition. Because 5th edition, a lot of classes, you don't make a choice every level.
Yeah.
You make choice at level 1, choice at level 3. And then when you get your ASI, you choose what to do with that. Which is 5 for most classes.
Yes.
6 for the rogue, 7 for a fighter. 4, 8, 12, 16,
19. Yeah, 5.
Yeah, the rogue has an extra one, and the fighter has one more than that.
Fighter has more than that, don't they? Because they get every other level after 4th. 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 19. So they end up with 9. 8 or 9.
I don't know if it's every level. I don't think it's every other level. I don't think it's that often.
after 4th, it's every other.
6th and 10th are there extra? Are there only 2 extra? I'm almost positive. Four, 6, 8. 12th, 14th, 16th, and 19th. So I was wrong. It's 14th. 6 and 14. And the rogue, I think, is level 10 then.
Yeah, the rogue gets 1 at 10.
Yeah.
That's their only extra.
Yeah. So the fighter is 6 and 14. Is their extra.
Okay. I thought they got more than that.
So yeah, but so yeah. Last few minutes. Do we want to should I attempt to play the riff that I was talking about?
That's your call. You're the one that, due to circumstances, did not get to practice as much as they wanted to.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I jammed my finger into a wire frame 2 Sundays ago and is a little sensitive, but we'll give it a go.
All right.
And I didn't bother checking the levels on here, so hopefully this sounds okay. And I have variations on that,
Okay.
but I don't know if that's wild enough.
You know, for me, and I don't know if you were going for this or if anyone else on the planet would even think of this, because I'm just that weird. And not as in the theme song of this show, but it very much gave me Twin Peaks vibes. So that definitely fits with speculations, though.
Okay.
It just gave me, like, I was seeing, yeah, it gave me Twin Peaks vibes.
Right.
Kind of like the background music and some of the more like ominous scenes. Yeah, mystery show vibes. Yeah, exactly. Very, very Twin Peaky to me, and I'm here for that. I love Twin Peaks. So,
all right. Well, perhaps I shall work on it, and we either do it at the beginning or just loop it and have it in the background, maybe.
Yeah.
I think I can do that.
Well,
we'll see.
We'll see. We'll see what we can do, and yeah, I think that'll be a good addition. And Rose is right there with me, so.
Did he just call me Sleepy Joe?
I think so. I'm not sure if he was calling you specifically or us together. We'll talk tomorrow, Tim.
Anyway, thanks, guys. At any rate, we're gonna get out of here, and we will see you guys next week, where we will be talking about Critical Role Campaign 3, Episode 1.
Finally, 2 more sleeps.